The Holy Gospel according to Luke. There will be signs in the sun, the moon, and the stars, and on the earth, distress among nations confused by the roaring of the sea and the waves. People will faint from fear and foreboding of what is coming upon the world, for the powers of the heavens will be shaken. Then they will see the Son of Man coming in a cloud with power and great glory. Now, when these things begin to take place, stand up and raise your heads, because your redemption is drawing near. Then he told them a parable. Look at the fig tree and all the trees. As soon as they sprout leaves, you can see for yourselves and know that summer is already near. So also, when you see these things taking place, you know that the kingdom of heaven is near. Truly, I tell you, this generation will not pass away until all things have taken place. Heaven and earth will pass away. My words will not pass away. Be on guard so that your hearts are not weighed down with dissipation and drunkenness and the worries of this life, and that day does not catch you unexpectedly like a trap. For it will come upon all who live on the face of the whole earth. Be alert at all times, praying that you may have the strength to escape all these things that will take place and to stand before the Son of Man. The Gospel of the Lord. In the preceding verses, Jesus foretold of the fall of Jerusalem at the hands of the Roman army under General Titus. Remember, he is standing in the temple district when he foretells this. Like in the time of Jeremiah, the people of Jerusalem believed that the presence of the temple was enough to save them from any invading armies. Jesus warns them this is not the case. He also tells them that the destruction of the temple would be a sign of the coming of the gospel to the Gentiles. Why would the destruction of the temple, why would the fall of Jerusalem be good news to the Gentiles? Because then it would be clear to all the nations that the gospel was more than simply good news to the Jewish nation. It was for everyone. The Jewish people of the first century expected that heavenly signs would come before the advent of the Messiah, before the coming of the kingdom. And the Jewish historian Josephus would also report of signs in the heavens that took place before the fall of Jerusalem in the year 70 CE. The images that Jesus uses come down from Israel's own scriptures in Isaiah, in Ezekiel, in Joel, in Amos. These were used to highlight or underscore the nature of the events that were foretold. The advent of the Son of Man is the coming of the day of the Lord. Now remember, the Son of Man isn't just Jesus referring to himself, as so many scholars like to suggest. Rather, he's using an apocalyptic figure. The Son of Man was foretold, especially in Daniel, that this was a figure of great power, riding on the storm clouds. This was a figure of great importance to the Jewish people. So Jesus foretells of the coming of the Son of Man. He said that the Son of Man would be coming in a cloud. Here he's alluding to Daniel chapter 7, verses 13 and 14. And in those verses, Daniel is telling us that the Son of Man was given dominion and glory and kingship. Jesus talks about redemption drawing near. Many of the Jewish rabbis, teachers in the early centuries spoke of the coming liberation and deliverance. They spoke of that as redemption. But he also says that this generation would not pass away before these things took place. Now, a lot of people want to renegotiate the word generation, and we should be careful not to limit it to a specific time period. We should actually compare this with the words of Jesus that he's used in this gospel here in chapters 7, 9, 11, and 17. The word generation is referring to those people who are marked by their avoidance or reluctance or even resistance to the purposes of God. This is one of the things that firmly places Jesus among the apocalyptic preachers. He indeed meant that those people who were hearing his voice would be alive to see the coming of all these signs. And he wanted them to have this firmly placed in their minds by telling them that heaven and earth may not be fixed, may not be permanent, but the words that he speaks are. Is he talking to those people of his time? Yes, he is. Is he limiting it to people of his time? No, he's using the word more to refer to all those types of people who are, again, resisting, avoiding, ignoring the purposes of God. Then Jesus shifts from his prophetic warnings to words that are more of pastoral counsel. He wants his followers to be able to interpret the events taking place around them, and through prayer and watchfulness, they will be able to maintain their faithful readiness. He talks about the fig tree and the sign of the coming. Most of the trees in Judea do not lose their leaves each year, but the fig tree does. It produces new leaves when summer is coming. It's before the wheat harvest, long before the grape harvest. And so Jesus is telling his hearers that when these signs are fulfilled, there would be no other barriers to withstand the coming of the kingdom. He then tells them to be on guard. Don't be distracted or weighed down with the pleasures or the worries of this life. They're told to be on guard so that the day of the kingdom's arrival, the day of the Lord, doesn't catch them unaware like a trap. Now, the prophets like Isaiah and Jeremiah and Ezekiel sometimes used or spoke of the coming judgment as a trap that would catch people unprepared. And that day would come upon the righteous and the unrighteous. So be alert always. What does this mean for us? Why should we be reading this gospel text on the first Sunday of Advent? Our hero Dietrich Bonhoeffer spoke repeatedly about the coming of Christ, of the Christ child during Advent, about waiting, Advent being a period of waiting and watching for us. The reign of God has indeed begun. All the signs have been fulfilled. But Advent remains for us both a memorial and a watching for the coming of Christ. We wait expectantly for Christ's continual and repeated coming into our lives. He has come and he continues to visit us in our lives, in our world, in our hearts. And so we say with the apostles, "Come, Lord Jesus." Thanks be to God.